just talking about some of the teams that struggled a little bit yesterday in the team time trial, and Sky actually put together a very nice ride, but they lost Edvald Wassenhagen really early, which was a real surprise to me because he is such a good bike racer. And when I talked with his director this morning, Nicolas Portal, that was one of the questions I asked him. And I just said, look, was that actually stemming from his broken scapula in the Tour de France in July and still, you know, coming back from that? And he said, yeah, he lost a lot of training from that. He has not done a single race day until yesterday from the Tour de France. And so he just didn't have the intensity. And there's one thing to have all the endurance from your training and be ready for a 3-week tour through that. But to be able to go the speed they have to go in a team time trial for your first day back, that's a big ask.
That was stage 12 where he broke his scapula. Now you see the bare hands of Rasmussen. Okay, I got to ask you, most of the guys are wearing their gloves on the riding. He's not. Why?
Okay, well, there are a lot of reasons for that. It's actually a pretty interesting question. Some guys like the dexterity they have without gloves. So, for instance, Fabian Cancellara, you watch him in a time trial, he'll virtually always have bare hands. He feels he has better control of the bike, he can rail the corners better, shift more crisply, and so on. Other guys will wear the gloves because of the padding, because of the crash protection, and oh, by the way, it typically has the sponsor name on it as well, so it's just another way to do the favor that your sponsor wants. The sponsors put in millions of dollars into these teams, and that's why these guys are plastered everywhere with Lotto Belisol or Garmin Sharp or Caja. There's a lot of money behind these teams.
Johnny Hogerland there at the front with some of the Lampre riders. What is his motivation today? He's coming in 350 down. He's not a guy that's going to challenge for the GC, and now it looks like his time of pulling up at the front is done because he almost looks like he's reaching and pressing down on his talkback, and perhaps either getting some instruction or telling his director, you know, I'm done.
Well, I think probably what's happening with Hogerland is he's headed back to the team car now to go pick up more bottles or just chat with the director. Actually, in the final 50K, you're not allowed to take anything from the car, so maybe that was more just a discussion. And their man for the general classification is probably Liwa Westra, but you know, you would say that coming in, but he's 409 down, right? And so he had a rough day. So I think the team is really looking for opportunities for stages at this point. Wout Poels is their high man on the GC at 118 down. And if you ever wonder how to stretch the quadricep while you're racing, take a good look at that right there. Basically stick that foot up on the saddle, and Angel Vicioso giving us a nice display. You don't typically do that in the finale when everybody's pushing and shoving, but you see guys do that a little bit before that final climb back of the field.
Probably you don't want to do it either going 20 miles an hour with 100 of the riders right around you. We'll take one final break here and the finish of today's Stage 2 coming up. 5K now to the climb up the Monte de Grova. And will there be quite a bit of, let's say, anxiety or pressure to get near the front at the start of the climb? Or is that really only in the case of a shorter climb and more of a kind of a climbing sprint finish? In other words, will there be much of a race to get to the front in the peloton as they start up their climb?
I think you could say anxiety would be understating what guys are going through right now in the peloton. This is the first summit finish of 11 summit finishes. So look at how fast the peloton is going right now. They're absolutely ripping. This is probably almost 40 miles an hour. And they know that setting up for this climb sets the tone for their general classification rider for the rest of the race. This is a huge setup right now, and it is going to be absolutely blistering and a lot of fighting getting to that base.
Cannondale in green doing a hard pull at the front moments ago for Basso.
This is a recovery easy
between the peloton and our breakaway of 3 is under 4 minutes. And with such a long climb, there could be quite a bit of suffering for that front three. And this also as well, we need to get back to this point. This is going to be really illuminating to see got their climbing legs set to go.
Yeah, illuminating is a great way to describe it because there's basically going to be a giant spotlight as things thin out and separate on that climb. I have to think Joaquin Rodriguez is going to come out with both pistols loaded and just be taking the big shots at everybody because he loves the uphill finishes. But Valverde has graded him, and then of course Sergio Henao, the Sky Rider, the Colombian, he's got something he wants to prove. And Nibali, all he has to do is mark those guys. So he can be conservative, he can follow the wheels, and then just finish with them and hold the jersey for his team.
21 stages in this year's Vuelta, 13 of them mountain stages, 11, over half, have mountaintop finishes. Amazing.
3 minutes now, the gap, so the breakaway is absolutely doomed. Argo Shimano now come to the front.
The gap exactly 3 minutes. When we come back from this break, we will stay through the finish of stage 2.
Now it's Katusha there and Lotto Belisol.
Excuse me, Todd. I was just going to say that we will stay with you commercial free through the finish of stage number 2. And that climb starts at about 11.1 thereabouts. So coming up shortly.
Yeah, really shortly. Now remember, the breakaway has a little over a minute on these guys, but everybody's going to be on that climb real soon. And it starts out hard, so it really starts to stretch the legs very early. 8.3% very early on in the climb.
Well, these three have done a fantastic job today. I think it's no longer a question of if they will get caught, but when.
Yeah, we just saw those cars coming out of the gap. So here they are. They're on the base of the climb, over 8% where they are, where the peloton is flat and very fast.
Now a couple tight turns and they will start climbing as well. 2,000 feet, 6.8 miles. Now you've got Omega Pharma at the front of the peloton. We have seen Zdeněk Štýbar in the Eneco Tour for Omega Pharma, who is an excellent finisher when the stages end uphill.
Yeah, do not discount Zdeněk Štýbar after what we saw the Czech Republic rider do at the Eneco Tour, which ended just last weekend. He was really on fire. He was the revelation of that race.
And now the climb in earnest. Rasmussen staying down, but Armendia and Henderson out of the saddle, and so you've got a Lotto rider in Henderson in the breakaway. Surprising to see Lotto trying to push the pace at the front of the peloton?
No, because they're just at that point, they're fighting for position. They know Henderson's not going to do well, and in fact, he's already been popped. So it's really about being in position. You don't want to be 50 guys back here in the melee.
So Movistar, Katusha, and FDJ at the front, and in a matter of moments, Henderson will get caught. So now the breakaway of 3 has been dropped to 2. There's Armendia and Rasmussen.
Pablo Lastras, the man on the front right now for the Movistar team. A very loyal domestique. Occasionally he gets a shot and pulls off a big win himself, but usually this is what he does. He sits on the front, he rides until he can't pedal anymore, and then Alejandro Valverde or one of his other team leaders takes over.
Valverde with 29 seconds to make up on Nibali. Doesn't obviously need to get much of it today. Many of these riders have pointed to the penultimate stage, stage 20, that nasty climb.
The Angliru is brutal. There's Henderson on the right side of your screen, so he has been picked up from the breakaway, and he'll just put it in the easy gear here, I'm assuming, and ride it in.
And now you've got 2 Movistar riders up at the front, but many of those riders thought that the Vuelta will not be decided until that stage 20, and that obviously yet to be seen with 11 mountaintop finishes. Clearly, you have to have your climbing legs at the Vuelta to do well.
And so, Peter, do you ever wonder kind of if their muscle group use changes on a climb to a flat road, or do you not worry about things like that?
I do not worry about things like that, but I will tee you up and say, yes, I wonder all the time. Explain it to me.
Well, you know, here's the deal. When you start climbing, you actually end up probably engaging your hamstrings just a little bit more and your glutes a little bit more. The the faster your cadence, the less you're going to be able to engage your hamstrings because it's hard to pull up. It's an unnatural feeling. But the cadence typically comes down just a little bit on the climb, so you get a little bit more hamstring and glute in there and take a little bit of the pressure off of the quads. But overall, you're always going to bias the quads as a bike racer.
10K to go, and our two breakaway riders now with about a 10-second gap. Let me build on that point. When you then get out of the saddle, what's the difference there in terms of the cadence going uphill and what muscle groups you're using?
So typically when a guy gets out of the saddle, notice how fast Rasmussen is pedaling, and he jumped out of the saddle there just for a second. It's hard to be out of the saddle with a really high cadence. So typically before you get out of the saddle, you go into one gear harder. This is about 10% right here, and the field is right on him.
So it's been a fantastic day off the front for Armendia and Rasmussen. And they are now caught with just under 10K to go. And as Movistar just swiftly rides on by, you can see one of the lead riders going to give a look over and perhaps a little
Okay, just in case you wonder what's going wrong, I am just in a recovery ride at the moment.
Well, you just got to be paying attention, and I don't think the Euskaltel rider was.
Yeah, there were definitely some words exchanged back there. And those guys really were already out of the stage, but still, it's, you know, your tempers flare in these moments. You're in pain, and then a guy takes you out. This is Fabian Cancellara, so he was wearing that green jersey as the points leader for leading his team across first and the second place yesterday. Cajo continuing to put the pressure on. Love the style of these guys.
Cannot see the number for this rider yet, but they had Armendia in the front all day long, and now one of his teammates takes a pop off of the front. You talked about it, about being animated. You're a wild card. You want to get into this race and make sure that that jersey is right here in front of the camera as much as it can be.
Yeah, Amos Chiruka actually used to ride for the Euskaltel squad, and he's come over to the Caja Rural squad. Maybe he's got a little bone to pick, and he says, hey, I used to be on a World Tour team, now I'm on a Pro Continental team. Let me show you what I have, fellas.
138 down coming into today.
Yeah, this guy always on the attack, Chiruka. 9K to go.
And he is looking back, Todd. He is really putting in a big push at this point to get a separation. And if the Motocan can get in front, we're just going to see how much the success he has had. So we've got a few seconds on the peloton.
Indeed, and this is one of those spots where it levels out just a bit. It's at about 5% here. It's going to pitch up to 10%, not soon ahead of him. And that's when we'll really be able to see how good his legs are.
Now the peloton strung out.
And if you're back, let's say you're back 20 guys right now, you may never actually be able to get to the front again because it's going so fast and so hard. And if you move up, you have to get out in the wind. And just to move up, then you blow yourself up and you can't follow the move. So that's why the guys have to fight for the position at the bottom.
And how patient do these riders have to be at this point? Those working for Valverde, Rodriguez, and Vincenzo Nibali.
They got to be patient, but they also have to be in communication. And Nibali right now sitting in the third spot. He's the second light blue rider for the Astana team. And he was just getting some water in the system.
A couple of Consolet riders up as well. FDJ. Still Movistar at the front. There were two riders there moments ago. Now just one. Pushing the pace, trying to mark any moves, working for Valverde.
And it looked to me like Jakob Fuglsang was up there with Nibali as well.
Well, if you find yourself at the back there and you're just about to give up, or you do, what goes through your mind? I mean, when do you reach that point where you say, I'm done?
You want to look for the views like we just had. That's what goes through your mind. You got to think of pleasant things. And it is Fuglsang there on the left side of your screen. Working for Nibali. We don't see the red jersey right now of Yanni Brajkovic.
Fuglsang 7th at this year's Tour de France. 4th at the Dauphiné.
Yeah, he's the real deal, there's no doubt. I mean, that team is loaded. If you look at the talent they have in there, they've got good talent protect Vincenzo, and they got good talent to help him out in the mountains as well. You can see the suffering going on right there. That was Daniele Rato, I believe, for the Cannondale squad. And just going back like a rock.
I believe that was 76, so Maciek Petersky.
Oh, it was Petersky, okay.
He did a nice job at Stage 7 of the Anaco Tour. He was in that three-man breakaway.
Indeed.
Had a nice finish there last Saturday.
Yeah, you'll see Vikinen there in the white jersey for FDJ, just going out the back. The white with the blue plus as the Finnish national road champion. He'll be saying goodbye to the peloton right about now.
So a couple of Cannondale riders get dropped off the back on this severe finish to stage number 2. What a creative and challenging start to this year's Vuelta. So many climbing stages, and they couldn't wait. They had to get to it right away.
Yeah, what about Jose Arada on the front right now for Movistar? He's been up there for a long time, just putting in a really nice, steady, and very hard tempo. Here's Brajkovic, the leader from yesterday.
So I think it's fairly obvious what's in the cards for him. He will not wear that red jersey tomorrow. And he said as much that he's out there to work for Vincenzo. So 7.5K to go to the finish.
And now out of this group, and this is not a small group. We're not talking 10 guys. We're looking at like 50 guys right now that have ridden away from Sergio Henao.
Underneath the 4K band. So Sky now has got one of their GC contenders who has already found himself in a world of hurt. 22 seconds down on the day. But if he does not pick it up, he's going to lose a lot more on stage 2 as Movistar.
26 miles an hour right there. 26 miles an hour with 5 Movistar men on the front.
Back to Brajkovic. At the back. Now might even be behind him.
Brajkovic is still struggling, but look at Sylvester Schmid. One on top of the Mont Ventoux years ago in the Dauphiné. A few years back, the only Polish rider ever to do that. And heck, there aren't very many guys who can claim winning on the Ventoux.
Well, there are many ways to get to the top of this mountain. There's one. We're going to follow these guys. Muscatel, boy, look at that. That's not a good sight.
Yeah, they brought 3 men back to help Sammy Sanchez, and they just hope that he'll ride into this after today.
Well, you got 4 Movistar riders up at the front, and it looks to me that Chris Horner is on his own.
Yeah, Chris Horner's sort of dangling in there. Right behind, he's up to the left shoulder, to our right, of the green jersey of Basso. He's out in a little bit of wind, does not have a lot of help right now, unfortunately.
Surprised with 3K to go that you still have this many riders up front?
You know, I am a little bit surprised. I thought that the earlier part of the climb might blow it up, but they came into it, remember, pretty darn fresh. And David Arroyo, let's see if he is still in the lead group. He is. He's hanging on the back. And that's Popovic there next to him. One of the men who does a lot of work in the Radio Shack team. It's going to be very hard for anybody to truly break up this group because there's so many guys here and we haven't seen any testing attacks yet. And it takes a bunch of attacks to really shake it up. And they're getting close to the finish with this many guys. Look at the 2 NetApp men up there in the front as well as Leopold Koenig, number 151. He can be very good on uphill finishes, and he was right there with a teammate.
NetApp with a nice performance yesterday in the team time trial. They went off first, held the lead for a while. So those 2 wildcard teams, the NetApp and Caja, have done a nice job today as well of making sure that their presence is known. But I'm so impressed with Valverde, but not impressed with now 39 seconds back. You saw one of the teammates from Valverde.
That was Schmid, yeah. So Sylvester Schmidt, who just did that massive turn on the front, he'll lose 10 minutes now in the final 2 kilometers. Just look at the results tonight.
So now Valverde with 2 teammates left, with 2K to go to the finish. 37 kilometers an hour.
That's amazing. I mean, they're going uphill at speeds in excess of 20 miles an hour right now. Wicked.
So you've got the Movistar riders, Astana, Metcalf, and Chris Horner with 2K to go, along with Roman Kreuziger. Or Saxo takeoff has moved back just a bit. But you are right, Doug, we have yet to see anybody make an attack.
Well, at this speed, it's almost committing suicide to attack because the guys are getting so much draft back in this group. And so attacking probably means you just shoot yourself in the foot, and everybody's just trying to stay onto this infernal tempo being set by Movistar.
Is it too steep at the finish to have an uphill sprint finish, or is that what we're looking at?
We might be looking at a pretty big group that just sort of comes unglued, literally, in the final kilometer or the final 500 meters. We might get some small
just ahead.
And now Koenig looks like he's striking
Looks like that'll be
so he's going for it. He's going to go
Dale
long.
or Oscar.
Leo Koenig for NetApp with 1.4K to go. Takes off, looks back, sees if anybody's going to mark him. You've got the 2 Movistar riders now with Niki Astana right behind her.
Oh, that takes some nerve, let me tell you. The pace these guys are going up the mountain to
Well,
try and
Oscar
strike out on your own.
is very close.
Absolutely massive confidence.
And
Just
doing
over a
a
kilometer to go to the finish. The
workout
rider won a stage of the Tour of
as opposed
California
to a bike ride, so
This would be a huge
has stopped
victory
the
for
moment.
not only him, but his team as well.
Oh, this is exactly how he won in California. He was with all the leaders on the big climb on Diablo, and he said, all right, fellas, you can look at each other. I'm going up the road for the stage.
Boy, what a fantastic turn of events for the opening weekend for Team NetApp, the German Pro Continental
now,
team. This is their debut
do
at the
I
Vuelta. They have yet to
continue taking it easy,
tour stage. Here is Rodriguez.
or do I go
Rodriguez, we
into
knew he was going to be going for it.
attack mode and two
Daniel
down,
Moreno for Katusha.
dollars long?
So is that not Rodriguez?
It's,
I think it was
That's
Rodriguez
the
from what I could see
uncomfortable
there, but
moment.
we'll get another look at his face momentarily.
Yeah, Rodriguez is number 121.
Okay, look on the right hand side.
That's Rodriguez.
Plan A.
Moreno, it's got to be
The
Rodriguez.
107 metres left to climb.
Go to the finish here. The first
106
uphill
metres.
finish of 11 at this year's Vuelta. So a couple riders have gotten away
When we get
from
to
this.
100 metres left to climb,
Four riders now. So you've got Koenig up in
then
front,
I
and
will
then you've got Rodriguez. Saxo take off an 82 rider.
stop staging up a little bit.
I actually may be saying that is Moreno. I thought it was Rodriguez, but I got a better look at his face there. It is, in fact, Moreno. My eyes failed me. Nicholas Roche is the man for Saxo Bank up there.
And Pozzovivo, Domenico Pozzovivo for AG2R.
And Pozzovivo, his team set coming into the race. He's here for the GC, and now he goes on the attack.
Pozzovivo on the left side of the road. And so it is Koenig who matches him. And it is Couture who keeps looking back, saying, where are you, Rodriguez? And now Pozzovivo continues out of the saddle.
And Pozzovivo has a degree in economics, and he's a classical pianist, but here comes Nicholas Roche. Roche really needs a Grand Tour stage victory.
Roche on the left side of the road, and he has timed it perfectly now. As they approach the finish line here of stage 2, Nicholas Roche, 4 hours and 36 minutes in the saddle. Katusha now in second.
And here comes Moreno. Can Moreno do it? I don't think so. It looks like Roche is going to get this.
Nicholas Roche, a huge win for him if he can hang on. There's a bit of a downhill slope, and he will win stage 2 of the Vuelta. Wow, what a surprise.
And fantastic riding by the Irishman, has all sorts of upsets there at the end. And now we see it looks like it is indeed Valverde leading everybody else across. So we'll see what happens here in the general classification.
Well, Nicholas Roche was 32 seconds down after yesterday's stage 1. We'll get a few time bonuses. But it seems like the big loser on the day was Anow for Sky. And the winner is
I'll do another
Saxo
effort
Takeoff. And a
when we
fantastic
get
win
to
for Nicholas Roche.
65 metres of time.
We'll take a pause and continue to wrap things up after this. The successful finish of stage 2 for Nicholas Roach, the 29-year-old Irishman, 12th here last year, 7th overall in 2010, picks up his first Grand Tour stage win.
A beautiful job by him. Look at the gap he had over Moreno into the final couple hundred meters. And at this point, it looks so easy from above, but I can tell you, the body is absolutely on fire, but propelled by that victory that's looming just in front of you.
Pozzo Vivo for AG2R finishes 3rd on the day, and Leo Koenig for Team NetApp finishes 4th. So for 2 straight days, Team NetApp has done a nice job, and for a pro-continental team, they have certainly made their presence known. So here are the results on the day. Moreno 2 seconds back, Pozzo Vivo 6 seconds, and then it is Leopold and Alejandro Valverde. So the best finish for one of our GC contenders. His team did a fantastic job on the climb.
Stage 3 of the
And it is a
2013
gorgeous
Coach.
day along the Galician coast in northwestern Spain. Blue water and sunny skies for the 3rd day of the season's 3rd Grand Tour. And the overall standings, after a very busy first weekend, Vincenzo Nibali, the Giro champion, is the leader by 8 seconds over Nicholas Roach, with American Chris Horner in 3rd, just 10 seconds off the pace. Stage 3 on tap for today in northwestern Spain, twisting and turning, flat most of the way, but not at the finish.
And all those twists and turns, as you mentioned, up against and around the beautiful Galician coast, so a lot of wind. And the climb at the finish, it's not a big one. It shouldn't see major general classification changes, Steve, but it just is another nervous finale for the guys, and the guys that are good at getting up about a 2.5 mile climb will be going for a stage win.
And we are now live with a 5-man breakaway that has so far shaped this first Monday at the Vuelta a España. No riders who are long-term threats on the general classification. You see the names right here: Luca Dodi, Vicente Arenas, Fabrizio Ferrari, Sergio Messi, and Pablo Urasut are the 5 riders, 2 of which are Spaniards in the break today. This is the peloton that is sitting in behind them. No real chase at the moment. The largest the gap has gone up to is just over 5 minutes, so everything under control, settled for the day at this point, and everybody just rolling along after a couple of pretty active days with the team time trial on stage 1 and the climbing that unfolded on stage number 2 yesterday.
Steve, I don't know if you just noticed, but the flag they just came by, the Spanish flag, the wind is definitely howling coming off of the coastline, so it makes for stressful days for the guys in the peloton. Even though there's not a dangerous breakaway, there's always that potential for something to happen in a crosswind, in a split, or a crash.
So much of the stage is along the gorgeous coast in northwestern Spain, and the prevailing wind for most of today's route will be a headwind. Now, when they come down to the end in the final 4Ks, which go uphill, that would be a tailwind. So it opens up a lot of different possibilities for the way the stage could go.
Indeed, tailwind climbs are the hardest to follow the guys that are explosive, because you don't get any draft. And so those tailwind climbs do make a difference. But once again, look at the wind.
All right, well, let's take a look at what's at stake here in the Vuelta on this Monday. Will Vincenzo Nibali defend that red jersey all the way to Madrid in 3 weeks? Can Nicholas Roach continue to hold the climbing and points jerseys? And what about Sammy Sanchez and Sergio Now? There is so much that has happened in these first couple of days. And let's begin with Nibali and the possibility of him holding that red jersey. We rarely see a leader at a Grand Tour go almost wire to wire, especially one with this much climbing that is still to come.
Yeah, a lot of tests for Nibali, but they passed the test with flying colors so far on Team Astana, winning the team time trial, and they weren't even considered one of the favorites going into that first stage in the TTT, 17 miles, 27 kilometers. All the team directors I spoke with were talking about Radio Shack and Omega Pharma and other teams, so they surprised there, it showed their depth, and then they continued to do very well on the
try
first
to get
summit
this
finish
recovery
yesterday. So
section.
Nibley's got a powerful team, and
He's
if there's
done one
anybody in the
zone
race who
two.
could do it, it would be him. But it's a big ask. There are a lot of summit finishes to come, 10 more, including today.
The margin to the breakaway has come down from its largest point of over 5 minutes, just over 2 minutes ahead of this peloton right now. Still a long way out, almost 76 kilometers to the finish. And what about Ainao and Iran, especially Sergio Ainao, forgetting to eat on the second day of a Grand Tour might catch some people by surprise.
Yeah, well, it caught him by surprise, there's no doubt. So here's how that works. You're in the bike race. It's the first time you're the leader of your team, a powerhouse team, Team Sky, in a Grand Tour. And so you have all the nerves to go with everything else in the racing.
20
And
meters
even the
of
best pros in the world have done that. Alberto
climbing,
Contador has lost stage
and
races
I'll
that
put
way.
the effort in
It just
again.
happens sometimes. But Ainao is the less experienced of the two Colombians on that team. Rigoberto Urán, his friend, his compatriot, his roommate, is really trying to teach Ainao more, and being a leader of this Grand Tour is part of that teaching process.
This is Fabian Cancellara working his way back up through the cars, it looks like here. Cancellara for the Radio Shack Leopard team, who is building towards the World Championship time trial in just about a month in Florida. So into the second half of his season and using the Vuelta as preparation for that TT at the Worlds.
Look at that. He's moving right up through there on this little congested part of the course where all the cars slow down. He just kind of rolls on through. I tell you, working that caravan like a professional, like Cancellara does, you can save a lot of energy. If you panic back in that caravan, then you use a lot of energy trying to get up to the field too fast. But if you just take your time, he's there chatting with the BMC director, no big deal, you know, take a little push here, draft a little there, and get up into the field.
Cancellara skipping the Tour de France this year because time trialing was not all that important. And now trying to make it back to this peloton with just under 75K to go on stage number 3.
Just chilling at the back there after a pretty rough day yesterday. We'll see if he can find the legs that he was missing yesterday. But Steve, to your point, the UCI points, in addition to the fact that a guy is moving to another team, and he takes the majority of those points with him, and the points are part of how the teams are granted the World Tour license to race in all the biggest races. So there are all sorts of conflicting motivations out there, and you can get some weird results from that.
There should just be a rule that you cannot announce a new team until the end of the season. I know that riders will know inside the peloton and that the information won't be kept totally under wraps, but there should just be some system by which you can't announce things until the end of the year, because you don't see it in any other sport. You wouldn't see Tom Brady saying, hey, I'm going to the New York Giants midway through an NFL season.
No, you should have a rule that you can't take your feet out of your shoes either during the race.
But hey, if Steph Clement from the Belkin team has the dexterity to do it, still ride along, more power to him.
Yep, just so long as that orthotic doesn't fall out on the road, right?
And look how much the gap has gone back up. They've let them stretch it out to an additional minute from its lowest point with 63 kilometers now left to ride.
Well, the games the peloton can play with the breakaway. It's a fine line between going too hard and not going hard enough. And sometimes you see them make the error at the end, and that breakaway does stay away, and the guys get the big payoff for being out there all day. But it's pretty rare.
Just toying with the breakaway at this point. And as you mentioned, we saw the BMC rider come up and talk to Omega Pharma Quickstep and telling him to ease back, slow it down. And you never know who exactly has the authority to control the speed and the pace of the peloton. So you always want to get everybody on the same page. You just hope that everybody has the same goals, the same objectives, because, oh, we have a crash. Sky, Kaharuwal, FDJ, and Garmin among the teams involved back here.
And a seemingly very innocuous part of the race, and can make a big change in an instant.
A couple of Sky Riders, it looks like. Oh, that's Sergio Ainao, number 191. His troubles just continue.
Luke Rowe was there with him. I think there may have actually been a third Sky man down as well. Salvatore Puccio, yeah, as well. And he's getting a wheel now. Sky just starting to stand up. But look at all the teammates he has around him. Doesn't look like his teammates crashed, but he had 3 teammates there to help him out, get him going again.
And the American waited for the wheel. The American Caleb Fairley is there for the Garmin Sharp team. Doesn't look like he crashed. He was just caught behind it.
But Sergio A now, number 191 there, just getting a push off. Has not been a good first couple of days for him.
Boy, sometimes you just get a sign that it's not going to be your race. And for Sergio A now, that's 3 things in the first 3 days that have been trouble for him as the gap is up to 217 now.
And once again, you can look down at the back end of the field, all this single file line. Those are the guys coming back up that got stuck in the bottleneck of that crash. There are going to be guys coming up for a while, though. Fortunately for them, the chase is not really on at this point, so they should all make it back up without too much trouble, Steve. But it is wasted energy, and you also have to live with those bumps and bruises over the next almost 3 weeks. And, you know, you're already taxing your body a lot. Now you ask it, hey, I got to heal these cuts as well.
That's one of the things that's really remarkable about these Grand Tours. When things happen so early, mentally, you have to get yourself in the headspace that, all right, I've got 3 weeks. I've got to suck it up because this could really be demoralizing if I don't have the right frame of mind. I think back to Tony Martin and his crash at the beginning of the Tour de France this year. I mean, that guy was as battered and bruised as you could possibly be. You were thinking he was going to pull out of the race. He had a concussion, but yet he persevered throughout the whole race and somehow had the mental capacity to dig deep and stay in it.
Yeah, it's kind of insane, and that's one of the big attributes of a professional cyclist is this sort of uncanny ability to always persevere, never give up, never say no. And actually racing the Peace Race, a couple-week long race way back in the 80s, Sergio A now making his way back up here to the back of the field. But I had a teammate who crashed 3 times in one stage race, and I've had teammates who crashed on the first day and the last day in the same spot. I mean, it just happens a lot.
Sergio A now back in team car here. Edison. And now number 191. Now look for a moment like he might get some kind of service, but now he's going to ride up with his teammates. Now coming in as the team leader for this Sky squad. Coming off its 2nd consecutive Tour de France win. Always a lot of pressure with one of the top teams in the sport, and now really on the back foot.
Yeah, tough day for him. It's Edvald Wassenhagen there with his teammate Xavi Zondio, and then he now should just get pulled up by his teammates.
So we're down under 60 kilometers left to go, and the gap going back up to the breakaway. Almost 2.5 minutes ahead on the road.
Definitely ramping up the peloton speed a lot right now as they're coming through this small town. Of course, you always have the added chaos of the crowds and all the cars on the side of the road, as well as the occasional road furniture just to make it especially unfun in the peloton.
Now, fortunately for the riders, less road furniture in Spain than in most countries. A lot of wide avenues such as this one. So nothing terribly difficult to deal with on the course itself.
Yeah, speed bump is nothing like a traffic island, that's for sure.
Under 50 kilometers left to go, and under 2 minutes now from this peloton to the breakaway. Now mostly flat. That red vertical line shows you where the riders are at this point, and it'll remain flat until we get to the finish, when this race will be decided in an uphill through the final 4 kilometers. And big crowds in all the towns. Still holiday season in Spain. So even on a Monday, some good crowds turning out for the Vuelta.
Steve, really nice view here of how that front group is rotating as they were moving up on the right side and back on the left side. And so each guy just spends a very small amount of time in the wind. And speaking of traffic furniture,
to
relaxed, they're pretty chill.
get my
And
heart
so they
rate
don't
to
have this
go down
anxiety
lower
and
again,
nervous energy that they're
so a bit
wasting.
high.
And then other guys seem to really get wound up, and it's hard for them to sleep. I mean, I've had teammates who couldn't sleep, and they would have to black out their rooms and have, you know, noisemaker, you know, these little white noisemakers and stuff, because they would just get so wound up, especially if they're in the lead.
You get upset when you have a teammate who can't sleep and that keeps you up?
Well,
because who gets to decide if you get to turn on the TV, watch a movie? Who makes that call?
No, you can't do that. That's not okay. And okay, so that does bring up a good point, though. Why would all these riders not have their own rooms? You know, then you would think you would get better sleep, right? One guy's idiosyncrasies don't keep the other guy awake. It almost never works that way. Yeah, if you're Alberto Contador or Lance Armstrong or Greg LeMond or Bernardino, you might have your own room. The other guys all have a roommate. So you find somebody you're compatible with. The management of the team knows that. And if you got a tough teammate, they rotate him around.
So they should just be right in front of the peloton at this point. And how about this? Movistar has it lined up at the front with Astana trailing behind.
Quite a bit like they were yesterday on the final climb. This is Lastras on the front. What a great domestique he is. And I have to say, a guy like Pablo Lastras, he earns every bit of his salary. He rarely gets the glory, but he is in the wind a lot for his team leaders.
And his leader is Alejandro Valverde, who is right now fourth wheel in a white jersey. Valverde, former winner of the Vuelta a España, like Rodriguez of Katusha,
That's
who we
the
were talking
coach
about
for
earlier, went deep at the Tour de France. Valverde also had to ride
just
pretty
to
hard
get my heart rate down
at
to
the Tour, so
below
not
100.
exactly sure how strong his form will be throughout these next 3 weeks at his home Grand Tour as well. Under 10 seconds for these 5 riders. The day's signature breakaway about to be brought back.
Yeah, they're about to sign off on being off the front, no doubt, as the peloton bearing down.
A perfect shot.
And so heart rate's always 60 barrels. 5 or 7 minutes or so to catch up, so
Movistar
won't
reeling
lose
it
this
back
position
in.
straight away.
And it's about to be all together here as they cross over this bridge to a small little island off the coast. Movistar at the front of the peloton, Astana just behind. The breakaway has been caught.
I expect Movistar at this point is going to continue to drive it pretty hard. They're right now very much concerned about the potential for crosswinds creating havoc before that final climb. So they want to keep Valverde safe. Also on the left, you've got the red and white of Katusha for Rodriguez in the overall classification. And now we've got Radio Shack on the front. Fabian Cancellara up there. He's got Popovic on his wheel. Remember, they've got both Horner and Zubeldia in the top 4 overall.
Yeah, Chris Horner right now sitting in 3rd place, just 10 seconds off the race lead. Horner coming off a nice bounce-back race at the Tour of Utah after sitting out the Tour de France, healing from injury. Typically, the Tour de France is a race Horner would do, was disappointed to miss out this year, so he's made the Vuelta a bigger part of his season focus.
Oh boy, I saw those barricades and I thought we were going to have a catastrophe. Almost a motorcycle hit it. And it looks like the guys
bunching up there at the back.
and some guys off the road, but I don't think anybody crashed.
Now Belkin coming to the front. Saxo Bank is up there as well. Well, you don't often see racing like this. Still almost 40K out from the finish, do you?
No kidding. This is just a lot of dicey roads, and there's some more barricades there. And you can see the riders on the front. These guys do not want to see each other hit the deck. I mean, yeah, they're fierce competitors, but they also care about their compatriots' health and well-being.
Trying to slow it down as they move over now to that island that we talked about. And this is more just about safety now. Movistar making that gesture to slow it down. They're not going to go to the front. Nobody's going to drill it. This is just about keeping things safe and sound for the time
finishing
being.
about 5 or 6 hours.
And these are those barriers
the riders, because when you're in the peloton, you can't see it. And look at this, the field is all split up.
Now the gorgeous landscape belying the danger of the course and the stage right now.
Well, this has turned into a really sketchy stage for the guys. A lot of frayed nerves at this point.
Oh, you can't back there, these.
And this other group that's off the back, over half a minute behind them now. And it looks like they're getting a tailwind across the water here, judging by the kite surfer. Here's Belkin in the green on one side of the barricades.
Spencer's feet, meters the plan.
And at this point, if you're up at the front, you're just going to stay in that rotation. So you pass the guy in front of you, you move over, let the next guy come through. As soon as you get out of the
Small
rotation,
stick sections in
then
the
you
book.
get stuck back there and you get swarmed. So you just stay in the rotation and use that energy.
Maybe about
Flag we just saw
maybe
on
8 to 9%
that bridge. It looks like it's going to
radiance.
crosswind now as they come over.
Yeah, I think it's actually cross tailwind at this point, and all sorts of groups out on the road. This is from the crashes and from the crosswind and all the corners, the road
If you want to
furniture.
stand up for
And
this
it's really long. Look
last
at the
bit,
trees.
at least for a little while.
You know, Steve, a lot of times people ask me, they say, how can the wind make so much of a difference in a bike race? And the answer is simple. If you're driving your car 32 miles an hour and you go stand on the hood, how much wind do you feel?
Which I often do, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these guys are almost getting as much wind as a body standing up. And so if you got a crosswind, it's going to push you around quite a bit, and it's going to really impact the fact when you can't get a draft, it's going to cause splits in the field.
And Astana is at the very front. That's the team, of course, of race leader Vincenzo Nibali, who's in a red jersey.
And quite often what happens, Steve, is after there's a crash and a mishap like that, the field will sort of put down their guns for a little while. But if you don't get back up there, eventually the racing comes back on, and it looks like that's what's starting to happen. So that group may be in trouble now chasing.
It is single file here behind the group at the front.
Still standing. Because he had can't
Battle
work out.
like this through the wind to catch back up. That's less energy you have at the finish. Now there's a couple of Euskaltel riders here in this group. Now, with Sammy Sanchez losing so much time yesterday, it looks like Mikel Nieve is probably going to be their team leader at this point for the team in the orange and black. They have a couple of guys in the second group who are chasing. I also saw a couple of Euskaltel riders in his front group as well. Hard to tell exactly who is where at this point. With 27 kilometers still to go. And wind all along the road here the rest of the way. It's been one of the defining features that has framed this third day of racing along the coast.
There's no doubt that the racing is being hard again. It's ramped back up. The truce is off. Things are back on. Still in the crosswinds, and still with all that road furniture out there. Yeah, look at that. The chasing group is losing time now. It looks like they are going to not make it back up to the peloton. They didn't get up there before the race picked up again.
Now Movistar now, the team in the dark blue with the green helmets at the front.
Crosswind in a really narrow piece of road because they're restricted to one lane. This makes for some very tough bike racing.
Now going back across the bridge. A great day for kite surfing and parasailing, but for bike racing, it is difficult. And it's so amazing how little.
Okay, so this finished. So, sprint there.